Morning television is declared to be light, bubbly, and safe. Amusement over coffee, accessible questions, and celebrity charm. But aback, Meghan Markle sat bottomward on the This Morning daybed aloft from Allison Hammond and Dermot, the atmosphere began to crack. What started as affable baby allocution unraveled into one of the best antagonistic interviews the actualization had any time aired. Allison approved to accumulate her cast warmth. Dermot attempted to calm the waters, but Meghan's sharp, aloof accent pushed the flat into chaos. By the time it ended, Allison had absent her patience. Meghan had absolved out, and This Morning had gone bottomward in TV history. The accustomed affair music achromatic out as the cameras swept aloft the This Morning set. Sunlight caked through the bottle panels of the studio, bouncing off airy flowers abiding neatly on the coffee table. Allison Hammond's booming beam kicked things off. "Good morning, everyone. Today we accept a actual appropriate guest, actress, activist, aloft Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle." The flat admirers erupted in affable applause. Meghan entered gracefully, beard bottomward in apart waves. She absolved with the advised poise, her smile practiced, precise, about too perfect. Allison leaned in for a hug, but Meghan continued alone a hand. The moment was subtle, but the air in the flat abashed slightly. "Welcome to This Morning, Meghan," Dermot said warmly, motioning adjoin the sofa. "Thank you," Meghan replied with the abrupt politeness. "It's consistently absorbing to be here." Allison laughed, abrasion off the coolness. "We're so captivated to accept you. Now, you've been busy. New projects, appearances, lots of headlines. Acquaint us what's activity on." Meghan's smile tightened. "What's activity on is purpose, focus, application, my articulation to drag the chat aloft gossip. That's what matters." Her words landed with a acicular edge. Dermot nodded, acided over. "And your accessible project, can you allotment added with our viewers?" "Of course," Meghan said, aptitude aback with elegance. "It's about truth, about giving bodies a adventitious to acquaint their belief afterwards actuality, edited into caricatures. Article I perceive absolutely a bit about. A aside cackle able the audience, bisected supportive, bisected uncertain." Allison best up on the tension, but pushed advanced with her cast cheer. "That's wonderful. But of course, bodies are additionally curious. Activity abroad from the UK, your new home, ancestors' balance. Are you happy?" Meghan's aperture curved, but the smile didn't absolutely ability her eyes. "Happiness isn't a gift, Allison. It's a accommodation, and I've fabricated mine." Affable acclaim followed. Dermot abashed to the abutting card, but Allison wasn't finished. "And Prince Harry, you've both been alive on abstracted projects. How is that affiliation acclamation out?" Meghan's eyes flicked to Allison, her accent sharpening. "You don't ask alive men how they antithesis things with their wives, Allison. We both accept schedules. We manage. It's not that complicated." The amore in the flat cooled. Allison laughed nervously. "Fair enough, fair enough. But bodies admire you both calm, and they admiration how you alter it all, abnormally, with the kids." Meghan's articulation grew firmer. "We alter privately. My accouchement aren't morning actualization material." A babble bouncing through the audience. Dermot jumped in quickly. "Let's access to the industry talk. There accept been reports, fair or not, about negotiations for your Netflix series. Some say you asked for added money for the new season. What's your response?" Meghan gave a short, about-biting laugh. "Aback a man demands fair value, he's a visionary. Aback a woman does, she's greedy. I don't hunt pennies, Dermot. I command a count a scattering of applause." Allison aloft her brows. Banishment edition smile. Able answer. "And of course, bodies can't balloon your comments on the monarchy. You've alleged it anachronous in the past. Do you still feel the aforementioned way?" Meghan beyond her legs, her aspect alive into article icier. "Tradition doesn't according righteousness. Centuries of history don't abolish harm. I don't aggrandize institutions that wound." The admirers grew quiet. Allison exhaled slowly, her airy bluff flickering. Dermot adapted his tie, aggravating to accumulate things steady. Well, he said smoothly, that's absolutely article for bodies to anticipate about, but anybody in the flat knew it. The restriction had alone aloof begun. The ascendancy allowance bashed as producers exchanged afraid glances. They could already faculty this was no accustomed interview. Dermot austere his throat, bent to cull the articulation aback to calmer waters. Let's dig into your artistic side, Meghan, he said smoothly. Ambiguity his chords. Viewers are absorbed by the storytelling in your projects. Do you see yourself effective added adjoined documentaries, scripted series, or conceivably writing? Meghan gave him an abstinent smile. I don't box myself into categories, I create. Whether that scares the industry or not is their problem. The words were coated in polish, but delivered with a airs that afraid in the air. Allison clapped her easily once, too brightly. Well, that's actual empowering. But of course, with storytelling comes responsibility. Some critics said your assignment is well, let's say, heavily focused on your claimed journey. Do you feel that's fair? Meghan AG her head, her eyes absorption aloof slightly. Aback men accomplish films about their claimed trauma. They win Oscars. Aback women do it. We're accused of narcissism. Conceivably, the botheration isn't my storytelling, Allison, but society's bias. The flat audience, usually abounding with amusement and applause, sat uncomfortably quiet. Allison affected addition chuckle, her easily bound deeply together. I'm alone allurement what bodies wonder, Meghan. And speaking of claimed journeys, she paused, her accent softening. How's Harry? He's such a admired amount actuality in the UK. Bodies absence him. Meghan's announcement hardened. Harry doesn't accord to anyone, Allison. He's not a gift Britain gets to absence like a absent postcard. He's a man, my husband, and frankly, he's advancing afterwards connected abridged intrusion. The accurateness in her articulation abashed alike Dermot, who bound leaned forward. Of course. And the children, Archie and Libet. Our admirers generally ask how they're clearing into activity abroad from the Alcazar spotlight. For the aboriginal time, Meghan's smile abolished entirely. My accouchement are not for accessible consumption. The Apple doesn't get to appeal advance letters on them as admitting their absoluteness, actualization contestants. Allison nodded, but her eyes flickered with growing unease. Of course, we account that. Still, families at home watching generally chronicle to seeing accessible abstracts antithesis parenting. It inspires them. Meghan let out an algid laugh. Again, conceivably, families at home should focus on their own accouchement instead of absorbing over mine. The admirers gasped softly. The temperature on set alone a degree. Allison's usually unstoppable amore faltered, and for the aboriginal time, her acclaimed beam didn't come. She sat straighter, aperture pursed, eyes narrowing. Dermot aloft his duke slightly, aggravating to air-conditioned the air. Let's allocution industry again, shall we? Those Netflix reports. It's been said, absolutely reports, apperception you, that you accepted a college account for the new season. Some advance it was about money. Others say it was about artistic control. Can you clarify? Meghan leaned back, bridge her arms. Clarify? I don't explain it myself to rumor mills. Netflix knows my value. If the columnist is abashed that a woman dares to negotiate, that's their scandal, not mine. Allison's jaw tightened. But Meghan, isn't it fair to say those negotiations are what keeps your name in the headlines? Bodies see you dispatch abroad from the absolution, yet still advantageous all-around attention. Doesn't that belie your admiration for privacy? Meghan's accent dripped with disdain. Aloofness doesn't beggarly silence Allison. I didn't abandon my humanity. I use my belvedere how I see fit. If bodies can't accept the difference, that's hardly my fault. A close blackout followed. Dermot abashed uncomfortably. Acutely analysis Allison's backbone was acid thin. She approved again, softer this time. But Meghan, absolutely, you can see why the accessible ability be confused. You've announced generally about absent peace, yet you abide actual abundant in the spotlight. Meghan gave her a secular stare. Accord doesn't beggarly disappearing, it agency creating boundaries. If the accessible struggles with that, conceivably it's because they're too acclimated to women actuality, bashful and compliant. The admirers murmured again. Bisected in approval, bisected in disapproval. Allison's beam assuredly returned, but it was brittle, strained. You've consistently had able words for the monarchy, Meghan. Aback you attending aback now. Do you affliction any of it? Meghan's articulation grew colder. Affliction number. The absolution is a relic. An accessory able for tourists, while it crushes those within. I batten the truth. I'll never apologize for that. The flat seemed to freeze. Allison's eyes widened aloof slightly. Again she recovered with her accepted warmth. But it was bright. The affectation was cracking. Well, that's absolutely one way to put it. Dermot abrupt to interject. What Meghan agency is, but Meghan cut aloft him sharply. What I beggarly is absolutely what I said. I don't charge an interpreter, Dermot. The flat admirers gasped again. Allison sat back, inhaling slowly, her easily arresting the bend of the sofa. For the aboriginal time in her continued career, her signature backbone was visibly thinning. Dermot glanced nervously at her, again at the cameras. Right. Well, we'll booty a abbreviate breach in aloof a moment. But first, Meghan, what do you achievement bodies booty abroad from your projects effective forward? Meghan's acknowledgement was instant, confident, cutting. That accuracy has no cessation date. No amount how abundant institutions or morning shows try to coffin it. The words landed like a hammer. Allison's smile vanished. The amore in her eyes was gone. Her aperture apprenticed into a attenuate line, and the atom that fabricated her, admired by millions, flickered into article sharper, colder. Dermot bent the attending on her face and knew the storm was coming. Aback the actualization alternate from the abrupt bartering break, the astriction was still blubbery in the flat air. Dermot bashed on his best able smile, but Allison's activity had shifted. The accepted animation in her eyes was muted, replaced with article afterpiece to adding and frustration. Meghan, on the added hand, looked absolutely unfazed, perched alluringly on the daybed, as admitting she endemic the room. Dermot leaned advanced first, bent to beacon things aback on track. Now, Meghan, afore the break, you batten about truth, and your projects accept consistently generated able reactions, both absolute and critical. How do you handle that affectionate of connected scrutiny? Meghan smirked with perspective, Dermot. Criticism is generally annoyance in disguise. Bodies like to breach bottomward what they don't understand. I've chock-full caring about acceptable over the masses. If they can't acceleration to my level, that's their burden. The admirers abashed uncomfortably. Allison gave a short, awkward laugh. Well, Meghan, not anybody at home sees it that way. Some aloof feel abashed by the contradictions. For example, you've announced a join the absolution agonizingly at times, but bodies additionally point out you've benefited awfully from your title, your connections, your visibility. Meghan's arch airtight adjoin Allison. Her smile vanished, her accent icy. Benefited? You beggarly survived? Do you accept any abstraction, what it's like to be chewed up by a apparatus and discharge out as a burlesque of yourself? The absolution didn't duke me anything. I congenital who I am. My belvedere is mine, not theirs. Allison's face tightened. But Meghan, with respect, your all-around acceptance came because you affiliated into the aristocratic family. That's what gave you the date you're continuing on today. A few gasps able the audience. Dermot Bound interjected, his articulation soothing. What Allison agency is, but Meghan cut him off. No, I heard absolutely what she meant. And it's insulting. My account isn't authentic by an ancestor's tree. I'm not some hanger on adhering to adopted fame. Allison's easily absorbed her cords a little too durably now. Yet, Meghan, you abide to allege about the royals at every opportunity. Isn't that still clinging? If you absolutely capital to move on, Why accumulate bringing them up? Meghan leaned back, her aspect decrepit arrogance. Because blackout protects abusers, Allison. And if that makes bodies uncomfortable, again, maybe they should appraise their own abetment instead of analytic my choices. The air airtight tight. Alike Dermot's convenance calm faltered. He abashed afraid in his seat, aggravating to lighten things. Let's not balloon Meghan's projects additionally focus on charity, on wellness, on giving back. But Allison wasn't animated anymore. Her articulation was sharper, her amore gone. I don't catechism giving back, Meghan. I catechism the way you present yourself as a victim while active in luxury. Bodies at home watching this are disturbing with bills, with boa, with reality. Do you accept how your words complete to them? Meghan blinked about in disbelief. Luxury? Are we activity to abate my lived acquaintance to the above-board footage of my home? That's beneath you. Allison's articulation rose, the acclaimed Hammond beam boilerplate in sight. What's beneath me, Meghan, is the airs you've displayed aback you sat down. Every catechism is an attack. Every criticism is jealousy. Maybe, aloof, maybe. But bodies are annoyed of actuality lectured by addition who claims she hates the crown, but acquiescently wore it aback it ill-fitted her. The flat admirers erupted in abashed murmurs. Dermot anon aloft his hands, his articulation urgent. All right, let's all aloof. But Allison wasn't done. Her eyes flashed, her accent fierce. You allocution about actual the monarchy, Meghan. But the accuracy is, you acclimated it. You acclimated the platform, the spotlight, the all-around attention. And aback it chock-full confined you, you angry about and branded it toxic. You can't accept it both ways. Meghan's aperture apprenticed into a attenuate line. For the aboriginal time, she looked rattled. She straightened her blazer, eyes absorption at Allison. I don't charge to absolve myself to morning actualization hosts. I've lived a accuracy bigger than this flat will any time understand. The words dripped with disdain. Allison, angular advanced now, angle all pretense of aerated professionalism. Accuracy or convenience? Because from area I'm sitting, it looks like you've milked every ounce of acclaim that alliance gave you. And aback bodies pushed back, you corrective yourself as a martyr. That's not truth, Meghan. That's performance. The admirers gasped audibly this time, some clapping, others abashed into silence. Dermot stood center from his chair, his award out. Let's calm down, please. We're alive, and this isn't. Allison airtight back, not at Dermot, but at Meghan. Do you accept any abstraction? How abhorrent it is to sit actuality mourning? Afterwards mourning, talking to bodies who assignment. Adamantine for aggregate they accept while you sit there, and affront about actuality blurred all while cashing in on the actual arrangement you despise. Abundant is enough. The blackout that followed was thunderous. Meghan beyond her accoutrements tightly, her button aerial high. Her articulation aback it came was algid steel. If the British accessible accepted me to bow consistently in acknowledgement for her scraps, they chose the amiss woman. I will never apologize for abnegation to be silent. Not for you. Not for anyone, Allison exhaled slowly, her articulation trembling but firm. Then maybe this account should end appropriate here. Because I won't sit actuality and watch you affront at every question, Meghan. This is this morning, not your claimed soapbox. Dermot abashed bound aggravating to bear the wreck. Let's booty edition, quick break. But the accident was already done. The admirers knew it. The producers knew it. And Meghan knew it. The showdown was no best simmering. It had a loft over. And the abutting allotment would adjudge who absolved out of that flat complete and who didn't. The breach was short, but it didn't air-condition the califaction alive on set. Aback the cameras came aback live. Dermot Oley wore a aberrant smile, acutely aggravating to advance ascendancy of a articulation that had veered alarmingly off script. Beside him, Allison Hammond sat upright, her amateur squared, her eyes afire with a mix of acrimony and resolve. Meghan Markle, assertive as ever, leaned aback in her bench with her accoutrements beyond and her button agey defiantly, as admitting adventuresome anyone to claiming her further. Dermot austere his throat. Welcome aback to this morning. We've been accepting a actual above-board chat with Meghan Markle about her projects and her experiences. Meghan, let's try to beacon this appear article positive. You've announced generally about empowerment. What bulletin would you like to leave with our admirers today? Meghan's aperture coiled into a attenuate smile, but her articulation agitated a aciculate edge. The bulletin is simple, Dermot. Stop assured women like me to consistently explain ourselves. Stop ambitious acknowledgement for affairs that came with as abundant affliction as privilege. I don't owe anyone my silence, atomic of all a television audience. The army abashed uneasily. Some clapped politely, others whispered. Allison exhaled, afraid her arch slowly. Her backbone had been continued to its breaking point. Meghan, she began, her articulation still calm, but acutely strained. No one actuality is ambitious your silence, but the way you've handled yourself today. Absolution every question, analytical every challenge. It's not strength, it's arrogance. Meghan's eyebrows attempt up. Arrogance? Alison, conceivably you should accede that my abnegation to bow bottomward to petty criticism is confidence, not arrogance. Maybe that's article you're not acclimated to seeing in women like me. Gasps bouncing through the audience. Allison froze for a moment, again leaned forward, her articulation bottomward to a lower, added alarming register. Don't you dare, Meghan. Don't you aberration this into some anecdotal about body's actuality threatened by your strength. I've championed women my absolute career. What I won't best is rudeness, entitlement, and a complete abridgment of accountability. Dermot approved to interject, adopting his hands. All right, let's... But Allison's words thundered over him now. Unstoppable. You say you abhorrence the monarchy, Meghan. You say it suffocated you, that it destroyed you. But let's be real. You wouldn't be sitting miting this daybed today if you hadn't affiliated into it. You wouldn't accept Netflix deals, book deals, or headlines. You use the acme aback, it ill-fitted you. Again, argumented out, aback, it didn't. And now you sit actuality audacious at every catechism as admitting the apple owes you something. The flat erupted in abashed gasps and murmurs. Meghan's face afire crimson, her jaw tightening. How cartel you advance, I acclimated anyone. My alliance is about love, Allison. My activity is my own. And if I've called to allotment genitalia of my accuracy with the world, that's my right. Allison leaned in, her articulation angry and unrelenting. Love, again, why does it consistently attending, like you're cashing in on your husband's name? Prince Harry, the man bodies absolutely admired afore all of this circus, has been bargained to a accessory in your brand. You allocution about independence, yet every aperture you've absolved through was opened by him. Admit it. You've leaned on his fame and you've milked it dry. The words hit like a hammer. The admirers gasped louder than ever, some alike applauding the bluntness. Dermot visibly panicked, approved to intervene. Okay, let's accumulate this professional. But Meghan snapped, her articulation aciculate as glass. I will not sit actuality and be accused of base my own bedmate on civic television. This is a blameworthy ambush. And frankly, Allison, it says added about you than it does about me. Allison didn't flinch. Her articulation rose aloft Meghan's fury, bright and resolute. No, Meghan, it says aggregate about you. The accuracy is, you've strutted assimilate the set with annihilation, but condescension, biting every question, acting like you're too important to be challenged. Well, let me acquaint you something. This is this morning, not your claimed PR machine, and I won't sit actuality and let you allocution bottomward to us or our admirers for one added second. The admirers' access into applause, some alike standing. Meghan's aperture opened as admitting to bear a final retort, but Allison cut her off with a duke raised. Enough. This account is over. You've apparent absolutely who you are, and this affairs will not abide to accord you a belvedere for this arrogance. Meghan stood abruptly. Yanking off her microphone, the wire snagged for a moment afore she tore it free, her movement aciculate and furious. She looked bottomward at Allison, her articulation abashed with rage. You'll affliction this. The apple will see how you advised me today. Allison's acknowledgment was close and final. The apple aloof saw absolutely how you advised yourself, Meghan. Don't accusation me for that. With that, Meghan spun on her heel and stormed off the set, her heels clacking like gunshots adjoined the floor. The flat doors swung shut abaft her, abrogation a abashed blackout in her wake. Dermot sat frozen, casual amid Allison and the cameras. Allison took a abysmal breath, again faced the audience, her announcement abatement with 18-carat regret. To anybody watching at home, I appetite to apologize for what aloof happened. That wasn't the account we planned, and it absolutely wasn't the accent we wanted. But sometimes a live television show's bodies as they absolutely are, and today we all saw it. The admirers erupted into applause, this time for Allison. Dermot nodded solemnly. We'll be aback afterwards the break. The cameras achromatic to black, but the blow would not. By the afternoon, amusing media would be afire with hashtags, headlines, and debates, and Meghan Markle's adverse actualization on this morning would go bottomward as one of the best abominable alive television moments in British history. If you enjoyed this astonishing story, accomplish. Abiding to like the video and subscribe for added affecting showdowns and abominable alive TV moments. Drop a animad version below. Do you anticipate Allison was appropriate to alarm Meghan out, or did things go too